Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the tornado is turning back.
And Psychic Tom is the taxman Tom tonight, so he is out of the office. Tied up with TurboTax. We've got some boxing action to talk about over last weekend. Mostly not too many fantastic
We had some good
fights.
weekend.
Actually, yesterday we had somebody's had to go, and it went by KO. Luis Feliciano losing by knockout, falling to 17-1 to Mike Williams, 6th round. Appears to 20-0. Feliciano 17-1. Freudis Rojas won a unanimous decision to stay undefeated himself, 13-0 now. 10-rounder against Christian Baez, falls to 19-4 at welterweight. And then the big fight Saturday up in Canada. We had a bunch for titles. And our boy, what's his name? Iceman. John Scully. He was up there in Canada with his boy Artur Beterbiev. Also, 20-0.
I mean, gotta be able to. I mean, you only have one loss. That was Canelo Alvarez by decision. It's like I mean, better be. I mean, well, I mean, I'm getting to the point. Like one thing you don't want to miss was because there's a always that can't man on her forehead, and it was like they're like, okay,
We're talking about Rocky.
Deanna, right?
Okay.
Against Heather Charles,
Yeah.
and he goes out there and he knocks him out.
Yep.
I mean, you figure the guy's 20-0, all by knockout. I went down in Philly a couple years ago when he unified the title against the Ukrainian boy. His name, of course, is jumping out of my head right now. They call him the Nail. And, I mean, that was a fight that you had, like, 16-0 with all knockouts and 17-0 with, like, 16 knockouts. Two undefeated champions going against each other. And Beterbiev just annihilated them. You know, he just systematically punished him. You know, like, now, this fight against Callum Smith, he was a tall, rangy fighter. He skilled and Beterbiev just got to him and never let him get comfortable, never let him establish his reach, never let him establish his reach, and then he
just takes fights by brute force. Yeah. He is just so incredibly resilient too. Like he does take shots, but it's just he walks through them, just kind of like Rocky Marciano used to always be famous for. I've never seen him visibly step back like hurt. Really, except maybe a couple times, like during a fight, but he doesn't take like successive hard shots in a row. He doesn't like hide in corners. He just comes at you. Like, wow.
fights, man, not that long ago. And after I said it to him on the air, I said it to him just on Facebook. Hurts a lot, and I know I communicate with him regularly through, comments and one of the highest honors you can give to a fighter is when you compare them to an all-time great. And I said, fight that really took out for me with Beterbiev was that fight against the Nail, Glock, I think his name. What really it was fight reminded me a lot. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Because no matter what anybody does in these fights against Beterbiev, he's always on top of you. And
Yeah.
he puts this incredible pressure on you. Doesn't anything fancy looking, anything pretty looking, he hits you wherever he can. And even when he's not punching, he's putting so much pressure that he wears you out, not just physically, but mentally. You go back and you look at some of those great Rocky Marcianos, and the one I bring up a lot is the second fight of the little front. Rocky not throwing hard punch him in his arms and his that's not man couldn't lift the dirt anymore. He basically broke his arm. And physically break him down. Not what I see at a better man. And with a guy like Rocky, it's like, even if he wasn't punching, he forced you to either punch or
Okay.
you had to work it all times. All times you either had to punch, move, and no matter what you did, he was on top of it. And it's like that exhausts you not physically but mentally. And that's what I see at a better man. And he just basically brought the calendar and the probably like those knockout rallies where he put him down twice. And excellent job by Buddy McGirt stopping us, And you see the referee looking over it, and McGirt was waving the towel. McGirt's like, look, I'm not taking a chance. I'm getting in the ring. There's no way.
Buddy. Buddy, the guy I snubbed in Boston one time. I want to talk to that guy with that in the end. He's a bare knuckle guy now. Jason Maloney, 26-2, beating Saul Sanchez as well on that card was WBO World Bantamweight title by majority decision.
Really good fight.
Bantamweight scrap.
Back and forth. And I said to my dad, I said, that round was so close. You're like, you could score it wrong, and nobody touched it. I said, so close. I said, you can have three judges. Say the three of them, me, you, and judges. And I turned around and I said, man, I gave Maloney every round, right? 120, 108, but every round was close. You turn around and say, three rounds, I'm giving him to Sanchez. 20, 108, 12 rounds to nothing. I was like, you two are both idiots. I had 6 and 6, 114, 114. Every round was so close, you could have had it. I need 108 either way. Realistically, it was 114, 115. So I said to my dad, I said, point I'd like to see you call the draw because it was so good. Let's see a rematch. And then I heard the first judge. They said, okay, judge number one is team 15. I said, well, it's not going to be a draw when they announce. It's going to be majority for one guy. And I figured it would go to the defending champion, Maloney. And, 116 to 112, 8 rounds before. I mean, it was close. And, yeah, I could see giving Maloney 8 rounds. For the fans, 8 rounds. It was that.
Depending on what side of the ring you were sitting on. It's one of those fights. It's very tough to judge. I've seen him go down in MMA to the last takedown. And I looked to tell this story, probably told it a few times on the show, but I was sitting next to an MMA judge at a local fight, and I said it right out loud to myself, and he could hear it. I said, this guy gets one more takedown, and he takes this fight in the third round. Sure enough, he got one more takedown, and I'm pretty sure that guy scored that round for that dude. It's just sometimes that one thing that the fighter does wins a round or a fight, in general.
Yeah. You know what? I know, David, and Rich, you've been in some of the seminars that Dr. Cox would do and coaching and all that. And Dr. Cox said, we thought on Saturday, say we had a show for alternate sake at Penn State or Navy or And then on Monday, he was in a very light practice, but he'd critique everybody's technique, and he would to let you know what he did well, what he did wrong, and little notes on each one. And sometimes what he would say to us, before and after everything, would be, look like you won.
Yeah.
He judged the fight. And you can sometimes they're so good, but sometimes they're so, because sometimes there's a fight that's dull. It's hard to pull and there's not a lot of action.
Yeah.
It's like shit. Because who do I, when the round's over, they go, who do I give that round? The guy that looked like he was beat over. Who do I give the fight to? The guy that looked like he won. Because so if you have tips here and, you know, the fight's over, well, look at this. Use my thing with my if you go back and you look at that, when I hit him with that last volley in the third round, and he goes and he drapes over the ropes. He looks tired. Jumps up. The coach is saying, "This fight's over. You figure, what did he take for the next round? You're done. Get into that little reserve energy you got and jump up. Be like, yeah, all right, whatever." Because if I'm a judge, I don't know who to. I think who has more left. Who looks like they won. Who acts like they won. And guess what? You won.
Right. There you go. Body language. You know, and it's in the middle of a fight. You can use that to your advantage too. If you can just see the point at which that opposite guy at the opposite side of the ring or cage from you starts to lose his will to fight.
Yep.
There's a point in almost every fight where it happens when somebody's the clear winner. The guy just loses his will, and then just the fucking light comes out of his eye. It's almost, and it takes expertise to really see it, but you know the right technique will do it to anybody. But yeah,
That's the first one of Richmond. I put it on, like, I put the kid on. Right. Willie Taylor. And, you know, Willie came out in the first round like a gangster. I mean, he came like he had a rocket ship. He came back and you watch Rocky 3,
yeah,
and they have like the final fight when it, you know, Rocky is, and the first round, Rocky, ring. So fast, Mr. Cheetah thing out of the corner.
yeah.
Just back and forth.
Oh, jeez.
And then he stops and I just want to say, "Man,
This-
look, got a gas." I'm showing the first round. Dropped my hands right in front of him. I smiled. I dropped my hands because now I know you don't have the stats to punch at me. And I want you to know that I know that you don't got the gas left. And I want you to know that I know that you don't got any gas left.
You know, that works sometimes.
On the edge. You know, you get in their head a little bit. And like I said, just dropping my hands and smiling at that guy. I'm like, yeah, let's dance.
Hmm.
Let's dance because my tank is full and yours is on him.
Right. Well, another fight we had was Christian Mbili beating Rohan Murdoch on that card. Um, that was a retired situation. Rohan retired. Mbili stays undefeated. He's got 22 knockouts, 26 wins, no losses. whatsoever. And that's really it for last week's biggest fights. This week we start on.
And then a card we're getting Martin Philly Friday night live casino. Christian Cardo. I've been no fan for Christian for the last 2 years. He had that law, really scary law, 5 years ago, and he had 6 months off after that, and going to come back in late 2019. This was going to go to Atlantic City and the whole card against the Browns. Then he has to play the Texans in March 2020. Well, we don't have to, we don't have to guess what happened after 2020. That target's planned. Good while. Now he's training with basically I think it's lift on it. And he looks pretty good, not way out, second round. And then yes, on Saturday night in Atlantic City, that was Joey DeWaco. And I think it's like, and first of all, Joey's built like me, short, cocky, powerful, pick up the body. For a guy like that, he's actually a very complex boxer. The problem is, a lot of times when these guys, their distance on him, it's hard for him to get a punch. So I assume that he lost a decision in there. He said he goes, sorry to the people that came. My opponent thought it would distract me. Right? Trying to take away and drop and doing the drop of hands, you can really look at like, you'll see, they don't engage him into a point.
Yeah.
Because like anybody.
Right. Yeah, Christian Cardo knocked this dude out in the second round. Fighter who was 35, 18, and 4 coming in. Christian improves to 21-1. Cordier Albright also got a TKO. First to 10-1. Beating Adam Kapenga 11-4 at welterweight. And Atif Oberholton proves to 9-0 with a knockout of his own in the second round too. Over Cleotis Pendarvis. Falls to 22-20. Okay. We got some fights coming up tomorrow night that are interesting. David Queller Contreras, undefeated at 25-0, number 37 in the world, fighting down in Mexico for the WBC International Bantamweight title against number 225 in the world, Pablo Ariel Gomez, who is 18, 14, and 3. I guess if we did these more often, you could call this the mismatch of the week. It's for a title. Why not? Co-main event, I guess. I don't know if it's actually co-main event, but it's number 449 versus number 594 at lightweight. Eduardo Martinez. Well, that's a new one. A double Martinez. He is 10-2, fighting Alexander Villa, who is 19-2 at lightweight. That's all Friday night. This guy got a great name. Of course, it's in Bangkok with a guy with this kind of name. Dekang Wang. He's 8-0, fighting Renz Rosia, 17-11-2 at Super Bantamweight. These are your 2-star fights. Don't blame me. Okay, and we go to Tokyo on Saturday. Number 77, Masahiro Suzuki. Number 77 at lightweight, fighting number 79, Roldan Aldea. Suzuki 911, Aldea 18-9-2. This one's for the Oriental and Pacific Boxing Federation lightweight title, which is vacant because they're still carving the name into the back. And not Rambo, but Ambo. We got Joseph Ambo, 13-3-1, fighting for the WBO Asia Pacific featherweight title, which is vacant. He's fighting Kenji Fujita, who's 5-0, number 44 in the world, that's number 63 at featherweight. Nothing spectacular on the rest of that card. But we got somebody's always got to go fight of the week, and it's not our Jesus fight of the week, but it is our Angel fight of the week. It's in Mexico. And what do we say about four-name Latino people? One of them is usually Jesus, but this one of them is Angel. Angel Daniel Garcia Molina. He is 16-0, and he's fighting Miguel Esparza Cruz, a three-name Latino versus a four-name Latino. Only in Mexico. Cruz is 12-0. Garcia Molina 16-0. It's for the IBF North American Super Featherweight title. And yeah. Angel is number 26, and Cruz is number 192. So that's it for that card. Well, there's one other one. It's for the IBF North American Super Flyweight title, and it's another Angel. Angel Talavera Carrillo, 12-0. It's number 104 in the world. Fighting Carlos Vargas Jaquez, who's 17-1. Number 113 in the world at Superfly. Okay. And we got some more overseas fights over in Liverpool. We got a couple continental titles, I guess you call them. Jack Cullen fighting Zach Chelly. Cullen 22-4-1, Chelly 14-2-1 for the BBBFC British Super Middleweight title and the Commonwealth Boxing Council Super Middleweight title. And then we got a female blockbuster fight, 10 rounds, 2-minute rounds. Michaela Meyer, the champion, IBF World Welterweight belt on the line. She's 19-1, fighting Natasha Jones, who's number 3 in the world. 14-2-1 is her record. And they've each lost one of their last 6. And we got Mark Jeffers, 16-0, fighting Jermaine Brown, 13-2 for the BBBFC English Super Middleweight title. Another female fight. Lila dos Santos Furtado, 9-1 at featherweight, fighting Caris Artingstall, who is 5-0. That is an 8-round fight, 2-minute rounds. That's about it. There's a cruiserweight fight on here too. Steve Ilondu Nichere, who's 8-1, fighting Jack Massey, who's 20-2. We go all the way to Tuesday. We have some other fights in Japan. Osaka. Artem Dalakian, number 3 in the world at flyweight, fighting Seigo Yuri Akui. Dalakian 22-0, Akui 18-2-1. That's for the WBA World Flyweight title. And then we got Kenshiro Taraji. He is 22-1, fighting Carlos Canizales, 26-1-1. At light flyweight, that's for the 2 titles, WBA Super World Light Flyweight and WBC World Light Flyweight. And that's about it on that side. The next Thursday, we have a decent lineup. Again, from north of the border, Albert Ramirez, 17-0 in Montreal, Casino in Montreal. Albert Ramirez, he's number 15 at light heavyweight, undefeated, 17-0, fighting Artur Zayatdinov, 15-1. He's number 86. Eric Bazinian at super middleweight coming in at 31-0, fighting Billy Facundo Godoy. He comes in at 41-7. No, a couple of smaller titles. NABA super middleweight title and NABF super middleweight title. And then you got the old veteran, Steve Claggett, 37-7-2, fighting Marcos Gonzalez Barraza, 23-3 at super lightweight. Steve still ranked number 26 in the world. Barraza, 190. There's our Jesus fight of the week. Somebody's always got to go. This Jesus is appropriately ranked number 500 in the world. Super featherweight. Jesus Gomez Adorno. He is 6-0 though, fighting Avery Martin Duval, who's 10-0-1. This is up in Montreal. It's Montreal Jesus. All right, that's it for boxing. We are going to go through the MMA fights pretty quick. We expect you to bring your top-notch knowledge of the industry, Tony. You'll have our commentary. We've got a main event here that you can relate to. These two guys are strikers, as they call it in MMA, which means they like to turn it into a kickboxing match. It's really the only action this weekend going on. And it is UFC 297 coming to us also from north of the border, up there in Toronto, Ontario. It's going to be a late night thing. It's actually going to be across 2 different days. Thought it was going to be one fight card on Saturday and one fight card on Sunday when I looked at the betting pages, but then I was like, oh, that's because the fight's going into the late wee morning hours here on the East Coast. But we've got a guy, Sean Strickland, who has become really kind of a phenomenon, and it's kind of crazy because it's almost like by accident they got a guy that they would have put through the Ultimate Fighter because of his personality alone. It's craziness. He's a character. But he made it to the UFC another way. Did not come through the Ultimate Fighter, and he has kind of come out of nowhere. He had a couple concerning losses back in 2022, but other than that, since losing to Elizu Zaleski dos Santos back in 2018, he has been basically undefeated. Mowed through a lot of big names in the UFC, kind of off the radar, too. He never really attracted too much attention until he strung together his latest win streak. And the capper was Israel Adesanya. He took him to a unanimous decision over 5 rounds. Previous to that, he TKO'd Magomedov, which is unheard of. It's like that last name is like undefeated everywhere across the world. Almost in MMA. And then before that, he beat another very formidable opponent by unanimous decision in a 5-rounder, Nassourdine Imavov. So, for those reasons, I like Strickland by TKO or decision. Duplessis' record might fool you. They call him Still Knox. He's a South African, very well known for their boxing, as our former guest could tell you. A while back, we got the White Buffalo on here. And he would tell you the same thing. And he has had a straight win streak going back to his days in KSW 50. September 14th, 2019 started, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights in a row. Won by Dricus. But, and it's a big but here.
Oh,
6 of those have been against UFC fighters. 6 of them. Most of them have been knockouts. There was one face crank submission and one decision over Brad Tavares, who is, as Tom would say, no cheap date. So he's obviously a striker. Sean Strickland will stand and strike with the best of them. He got knocked out by Alex Pereira the last time he was stopped. I was in the first round. What did he do? He turned around and started working with Alex Pereira. First fight with Israel Adesanya. So he's not afraid of anybody. He'll learn from anybody. And I don't think Duplessis is going to be able to use that strength against him. He has 11 knockouts of his own. Strickland, they call him Tarzan. He's a little bit crazy. Talk about giving people smack in the middle of a fight, too. He will definitely talk to you as the fight goes on. And he's actually, as controversial as some of his comments have been, he's actually a very big advocate of, victims of abuse, mental health awareness, and all that kind of stuff. So I think as much as he raises hell sometimes, he's already gotten into a brawl in the stands with Dricus Duplessis, his opponent here. Yeah, I think he's good for the UFC. He's a good role model for a lot of people. And he's like a testament to hard work. That's one of my favorite things about him. Because he is relentless in training. I've seen legit training sessions where he's taken on 3 people at once. I mean, they're laughing and not taking it too hard, but I mean, he's literally trying to fight them all. Good stuff. Anyway, so that's our main event. And the rest of the card, we have a lot of veterans. Rocky in the co-main event, Raquel Pennington. And she is married to the Tiny Tornado. I forget her name. Drawing a blank. Tiny Tornado. Tisha the Tiny Tornado Flores. Raquel Pennington. She's named Rocky. She's also more of a stand-up fighter, but she doesn't have a lot of knockouts to go with it. She tends to go to decision, so she's got 10 decision wins. Yeah, let's see what I got for her. Pennington by decision. This is my betting advice on this one. Pennington by decision, or her opponent Myra Bueno Silva by submission. Bueno Silva likes to submit people. You have to go back quite a ways to the last time. Well, actually, I don't think she has been submitted at all. Ever. So it'll be her first submission loss if Buena Silva took Pennington out that way. I don't know if that's a fluke or just that she hasn't been up against an expert in the submission like this one. Oh, Kat Zingano was the last one to submit her by rear naked choke. That was back in 2012. Myra Buena Silva's kind of a young up-and-comer. 10-2-1 is her record. She's very fierce, so I would have to go with the alternate decision bet. Pennington by decision or Buena Silva by submission. I did get a good win last week on a parlay for the last UFC card. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but my Where's Waldo buddy, Waldo Cortez Acosta, took it by TKO or decision. That was my first pick of the parlay. That was pretty heavy favorite odds, -550, so that wasn't the moneymaker on it. But, Ferreira by first round knockout. I got that one done by seconds. That was a plus 165. He did get the knockout just at the end of the first round. And then Batista by submission or decision. That was a plus 215. And Jim Miller, pretty much knew he was the lock for a TKO or submission. I was leaning towards submission. Ended up being that way by plus 120 was that those odds. And then Ankalaev by KO in the main event. That was an easy decision. Ankalaev had pretty much straight knockouts. And Strickland, I'm going to pick by TKO this weekend. TKO or decision. But yeah, Ankalaev by KO was the last one in my parlay. 5-leg parlay. $5 bet on that. Paid off 162 in chicken. So that was my big parlay. We didn't really get the chance to get my picks in advance on the show last week, but I think that one was on the fly anyway. I like those ones, those big surprises. Anyway, so my pick for the Strickland versus Duplessis fight, I forgot to mention, Strickland by TKO or decision. 5 rounder with guys like that like knockouts. Tough to pick it by decision, but just in case you become the tactical, you know, take your time fight. And there's such bad blood. Sometimes rather than knock the guy out, you want to take him the distance and punish the crap out of him and embarrass the shit out of him. So that might be what Strickland does if he stoops to that. I don't know. I think he could knock him out too. So TKO decision for him. I really think Duplessis has to do it early if he's got a chance. He's one of those guys, like you said, your opponent was down there who lost his gas tank for a guy like Duplessis to keep all those muscles, the blood flowing and everything like that. Takes a lot of energy and gas. He tends to have a low gas tank. Strickland is like, kind of a medium build. Doesn't have like huge burgeoning muscles or anything. He's just, all arms, really. Walkboard friggin' stomach. That's it. But he's got reach, he's got aggressiveness, and he's got a freakish style that I would not recommend for your typical boxing stance. He's kind of got like a cross arm style, almost like a George Foreman type defense sometimes when he ducks down, if he does the cross arms in front of him.
Like
Yeah, so,
more.
yeah, the duck under type thing where you just expose the top of your head. And he moves very well around the cage. So I like that one. And then we got Neil Magny against Mike Maylott in the welterweight co-feature here. Magny has had a bad day in the office, 2 fights in a row. And I think I bet on him in Boston. And he got demolished by Neil Magny. I mean, not by Neil Magny. He is Neil Magny. He got demolished by himself. Oh, by Ian Gary. So, similar RY. So, Ian Gary, yeah. So Neil Magny facing Mike Maylott now. He is 10-1 with 1 draw, and he has absolutely mowed through the competition. All 10 wins by stoppages, 6 submissions, 4 KOs. So no surprise. He's had actually 4 UFC fights in a row and by stoppage. 3 of them in the first round. 2 of them submissions. So I would say the best bet on this one is Maylott by TKO or submission, or you could also go for a really aggressive move and parlay a first round submission. Or not parlay, but it's under the fight parlay option where you actually pick the round. So first round submission or TKO. He could do either one. He's got 3 of them in his last 4 fights. Latest one happening 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Fight. And his last opponent, Adam Fugit, lost by submission as well. That was a guillotine choke. So if you really want to pin it down, I'd say 3 out of 4 of his last fights ended with a submission. So go for the submission. First round, possible, obviously. But definitely submission or KO if you're going to go wide with this bet. I don't think Magny has a shot now. Even though he's fought a lot of guys with more experience, Mike Maylott is the real deal. That's my story. TKO or submission. Okay, so then we have Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Chris is coming off a no contest. When he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he's horrible. And Marc-Andre Barrial is kind of like one of them journeyman test fighters. If you can get through him, you can make a title run. They call him Power Bar. He's a really big dude for middleweight, and he's got 2 fights in a row, big wins. Julian Marquez and Eric Anders, one by TKO, one by decision. And he has been knocked out in the first round himself, 16 seconds in by Chidi Njokuani back in 2022. But other than that, he's been doing pretty good in the UFC. Has lost to Anthony Hernandez by arm triangle choke, 3 rounds in, back last September. I like him in this one. I think he takes a decision. Knockout or decision. Barrio. If you want to go with Curtis, if you think he's going to have a good day, I go KO. He had a KO over Joaquin Buckley, his last win in the UFC. It was December 10th of last year. So he's due. That was sandwiched by losses to Kelvin Gastelum and Jack Hermanson. Both no cheap dates. And he had 3 UFC wins in a row against really tough guys before that. Phil Hawes, Brendan Allen, and Rodolfo Vieira. So he has a chance. They call him the action man, but he needs to be the action man this Saturday if he wants to win. I gotta get the KO from or else Barrios just gonna outlast him and take the decision. So there's that one. Now, getting down to the meat of the card, we've got Arnold Allen at featherweight against Movsar Evloev. And this one, you might want to bet to go the distance. So it's also a fight parlay option. Betting situation. Movsar is undefeated. He is 17-0, never been stopped, obviously. But the interesting thing is he's also got 10 decision wins. 10. All his UFC wins have been by decision. Only 1 split. 1. Beat some really who's names of the UFC over that stretch. Arnold Allen has 2 losses. One of them was to Max Holloway. That was his last one. The other one was in 2014. So, I mean, Holloway is a legend of the game. That was a unanimous decision over 5 rounds. This is going to be a 3-rounder. I like Evloev by decision. But Arnold Allen could also win by KO or decision. That's what he's got most of. He's got 2 fights before the Holloway fight. He knocked out some really big names. Calvin Kattar from the Boston area and Dan Hooker, longtime veteran, both by TKO. So he's capable. I mean, he had quite a win streak going. But Evloev is just so well-rounded. Just to have that decision streak. Last fight in the feeder league, M1 Challenge, the big Russian league. I used to actually report on this dude back in the very early days of our site because we did a lot of M1 Challenge stuff. And he was undefeated there, and he's still undefeated in the UFC, but all by decision. So I don't see him picking up knockout power overnight. We're getting a submission. He does have 3 TKOs and 4 submissions, but they're all back in the feeder leagues. He's never knocked out a fighter in the UFC or stopped a fighter in the UFC. So one could say he's due, but I would say a leopard doesn't change his stripes. Go heavy towards decision for Evloev. Decision or submission, because he does do a lot of wrestling. So there you have it on that one. Well, that's going to be a hell of a fight. Talking about styles make fights. Then we have Brad Katona versus Garrett Armfield. Brad was on the Ultimate Fighter a few times, one of the recent seasons. He actually went to the finale and won his fight. 13-2 is his record coming in. Armfield 9-3. And I like Katona by decision or Armfield by knockout. That was another one of those alternate decision bets came up with for this card. And Charles Jourdain, 15-6 with one draw at featherweight, fighting Sean Woodson, who's 10-1-1. It's a featherweight fight, and these two guys like to go the distance. It's very tough to pick a winner in this one. I'd say it's a 50-50 fight. So I'm going to say to go the distance on that one, too. To go the distance. That's the safest bet. And then we have an interesting one, a bantamweight rematch. Now, I don't get this. Why any organization would do this, but I don't know the circumstances of the knockout. Sergey Sidey and Ramon Taveras are having a rematch. And guess what the result of the first fight was? Taveras got knocked out in the first round. 2 minutes and 26 seconds.
So it was probably going to be something very lopsided. Like, reason for a rematch. Some crazy clause in the contract.
Yeah.
What I always think of was Patterson getting a rematch with Sonny Liston. Got knocked out in 86 seconds the first fight, and the next fight he lasted 90.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, champion going in. They had a rematch clause, but it was like the most fitness rematch ever.
Right. So this one's kind of confusing. Ramon Taveras did take out his next opponent very quickly. They call him the Savage. But, it's a big but, you look at, these are both contender series fights. The fight against Sergey Sidey, who he's rematching, and this Cortavius Romeus fight. This was on the contender series as well. I think I actually bet on this fight. I put some money in a parlay. But Ramon Taveras beat him in 29 seconds, this Cortavius Romeus. And you go look at his record. And fought every one of his fights in the feeder leagues. And had pretty easy competition. Only went to decision twice. And then beat everybody else by first round submission, or TKO in this case of his first fight. So he just mowed through people pretty easily in some very obscure feeder leagues. LFA was the biggest one. He had one armbar submission there, and then he went right to the contender series. So that's really, I mean, the guy's built like a truck, but that's really nothing to brag about when you beat a guy who's coming straight to the UFC from the minors, I guess you could call him. And he's already had a Dana White's contender series fight. But actually, I think he might be one of the first people to compete twice in the same season. So he said week 5 and week 10. Cortavius Romeus was week 10 and lost to Sidey since it was so quick, I guess. He made a quick turnaround. Fought September 5th and then again on October 10th. Wow. And our former guest, Kevin McDonald, refereed that Sidey fight. But this is a rematch. And I'm going to give Taveras credit for possibly learning a lesson. But I'm also going to say that Sidey's going to knock him out again. Just might take longer. But this might also be one because Taveras is capable of knockouts too. Instead of picking a side, you might do the under. If it's under a round and a half or 2 rounds, there's over-under with fights as well as, all the other sports they have them for. So this is, I think, a good under bet. Each guy's capable of a knockout. And of course, Romeus, Tavares is coming off the Romeus first round knockout in just 29 seconds. So, of course, there's always a crazy possibility that it could go decision because the guys know a little bit about each other, but I'm not seeing that. Tavares actually has 3 knockouts straight for his wins, except for that knockout on the other side that he lost. So I think both guys have a really good shot of getting that knockout. Also in the first round. So the first round TKO parlay is in action for both guys. Maybe even the finish in the first 60 seconds. Although last time I advised that, I lost it by like 3 seconds. So maybe not take that risk. Okay. Now we get to the very early card. We got a strawweight matchup between Jillian Robertson and Polyana Viana. And it's our Pollyanna fight of the week. Jillian is also nicknamed the Savage. We have a female Savage nickname and a male Savage nickname on the same card. Jillian is savagely good at submissions. She is a 9 submission win fighter. She got a couple losses in her last few fights. JJ Aldrich back in March of 2022. Tabitha Ritchie most recently by unanimous decision in June of this year. But she likes her submissions. She's got 2 submissions in between those, both in the second round. And she submitted Priscilla Cachoeira before J.J. Aldrich, the very last second of the first round. She likes to lose by decision, if she loses. Lost 1 by TKO, 1 by armbar earlier in her career, early in her UFC days, and then a couple of decisions earlier in her feeder league days. She's got quite an extensive exhibition and amateur career as well. So I like Jillian in this one. Pollyanna comes in at 13-6. Robertson has 8 losses, but she's had a long UFC career already. She's fought a lot of big names. And I think it's hard to find a female fighter without a bunch of losses throughout her career these days, because they are in such competitive fights. They really are. Just never in a dull fight either, it seems like. Anyway, Pollyanna is coming off a loss by submission, so that's why I picked Jillian. By an arm triangle choke in the second round. For that, she lost to Tabitha Ritchie by unanimous decision. And Jinhu Fry came between that. It was a knockout in just 47 seconds. It was a knockout win for Pollyanna. And Jillian has actually Pollyanna experience because she got a Pollyanna of a different spelling not too long ago. Pollyanna Botello back in October of 2020. She won by unanimous decision. So if you're doing, common opponent math, you can do some Pollyanna math. You really want to do some crazy analysis. Pollyanna, if she wins, I would have to go, I'd say knockout. She's also capable of a first round armbar submission, apparently. But I don't think she's really fought as long. Definitely not as long in the UFC, and definitely not the quality of fighters. I mean, she's got a couple of the same names on her resume, but she's really not beaten some of the bigger names like Jillian has. So I like Jillian on that one. It is another one where you could probably hedge your bets and go the distance. Although I like the submission or decision for either fighter. You could either fighter could win that way. Okay. Get down to the first 3. Johan Lainez and Sam Patterson. This one's my 50-50 fight of the week. Patterson, he's got 9 stoppage wins, but Lainez has lost 2 of his last 3. And I kind of like Patterson by TKO or submission, but I think this is a fight that could go either way. Might be a money line bet too for Patterson, because he's got a little bit more high level experience. Both of them are coming off knockouts, though, knockout losses. So it's tough. It's tough to figure out which guy's going to bounce back better, build back better, like Joe Biden. Okay. Second fight. Jasmine Jasudavicius. She is 9-3. Her name is accurate because she's never been stopped. She's vicious. She goes the distance. She doesn't have any stoppage wins either. Priscilla Cachoeira is submission susceptible. If Jasudavicius had stoppage wins, that's another to go the distance, I think, just for that factor. Jasudavicius is 9-3. Cachoeira 12-5. Cachoeira obviously has a little bit more experience fight-wise on the pro level. I like her by KO if you got to pick a winner. But I really like to go the distance on that fight, especially at that weight, flyweight. It's hard for those girls to get big knockouts or, get into the grappling matches for too long. First fight of the night. Malcolm Gordon, 14-7, fighting Jimmy Flick, who is 16-7. And Malcolm has 2 losses in a row, both stoppages. 3 first round losses. But if you're going to pick him by knockout. Jimmy Flick has 2 losses in a row as well. I like him by submission. Both of those losses were by KO. That's why Malcolm Gordon by KO makes sense. So you could do an alternate decision bet on that one. Alternate decision being Malcolm by KO and Jimmy Flick by submission. I did win one of those type of bets last week. It was in a parlay, and one of the other ones lost. Didn't carry through on the rest of it. Anyway, as far as news goes, let's see what we got for stuff set aside. Boxing. So we've already kind of discussed Joshua versus Ngannou. Looks like it's a done deal already. Chris Cyborg is actually fighting this weekend as well in boxing. Fighting a 2-0 fighter. She's actually says she's open to facing Clarissa Shields in boxing and MMA. It says I want to be doing the biggest fight. So you've got some bare knuckle going on this weekend too. Okay. What? What's one's name? Talked about the NFL before the show. And coincidentally, we have a story here about NFL star Chandler Jones transitions to MMA following the footsteps of brother John Jones. Thought he was just in trouble for a domestic issue, wasn't he? Didn't he play for the Raiders and get released? It was some domestic violence issue. Would make sense. Chandler Jones, or was that the other brother? I know there's 2 brothers that played football. I'll have to look it up. Oh yeah, played for the Las Vegas Raiders in the NFL. Faced a challenging period which led to his departure from the league. His behavior, including emotional outbursts and sharing conspiracy theories on social media, raised concerns about possible CTE-related issues. Despite these challenges, Chandler's athletic prowess and support from his brother John create a promising foundation for his success in MMA. Yeah, I don't know how seriously to take this article. It's from a very obscure site, MMA NYTT. Never heard of it. Yeah, until I see him actually fight, they just got like one little bit of footage of him hitting the mitts. So yeah, I don't know if he's got his brother's skill at all. Anyway, apparently there was some VADA issue with Beterbiev December that Liam Smith is speaking out about. Callum Smith's older brother, Liam Smith. Didn't know they were brothers. Uh, he's basically had atypical test results, whatever that means. Beterbiev's other tests showed no additional atypical results, and none of them were positive. If Liam is bringing up this information as an excuse for why Callum lost the fight, it's not going to help. Liam said, "You had two, not one, two tests where you got this atypical, not adverse finding. Crazy. In my opinion, if it shows in your system, there's something there. And at 39 years of age, if your testosterone is up, there's only one thing. You lose testosterone the older you get. You lose it. It doesn't go higher. It should speak for itself. Regardless of anything, the fight went ahead, and Callum, it's nothing really. We can't do nothing about it. I'm proud of Callum. 17 months out of the ring didn't help him. That's not saying he would have won if he'd been active. I'm just saying that didn't help Callum's performance. But he put up a great fight, and he's a great champion. I'm saying if you're a bit more active, you surely would have been a bit more better." That's kind of funny. Because on one breath you're blaming steroids, and in the other breath you're saying that he should have been more active. Make up your fucking mind. Craziness. Wrestling. I saw something on Facebook today I figured you might like. I don't know if it's true. It was just one of those posts somebody put up. No link to an article or anything, but apparently there's going to be a new movie about Mike Tyson. And guess who's playing Customata?
Oh, um, first I'm hearing that. And let's see. Yeah, go on a blank. What is it?
You better call him sir. That's all I'm going to give you for a clue.
Better call him. The only time I get called sir is when they say you're making a scene. Stole that directly from Hermiston.
Yes. Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
Yes. Not Bernard Hopkins. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's got kind of like a weird accent that I don't think Cuss had, but I think he could dull it out. He's very good with different roles. He just does have like a sort of a British accent behind a lot of his acting. So It would kind of be funny in a custom auto character if they do it right. So we'll see. But I think he'll do well. And it will probably be one of his final big roles. I don't see him really acting too much longer. He's got to be like 90 something at this stage. He's been in so many movies. He's actually in one of my absolute favorite, even though he uses his legal stuff for a bad cause. He's in this great movie about a murder investigation where he murders his wife and hides it so well. And he's like absolute genius, and he represents himself and just like starts whipping the prosecutor. It's just really good. But then at the end, he kind of gets busted. Another accident kind of blows it all up. But anyway, great actor. Great role for him. Can't wait to see that. Our boy John Scully's in a new movie too. It's on kind of a smaller platform, but he was posted about it the other day. He gets to carry a gun and act like a gangster. So that should be funny to see. Eventually, it keeps getting talked about, but we're gonna have to see Beterbiev face Dmitry Bivol.
Yeah,
Uh,
like I said, it's me right now. It's better to watch because some movie goes. That's like where he got. I think he's been down maybe once. Okay, well that, which sure he has. And then he's at the point where he was badly cut. Um, and he's looking like to win by knockout. Now you go up against a guy like Future People, whose biggest win was the Canelo Alvarez. You're looking at another not the knockout puncher, but a tight guard, well schooled. What you're going to have there is boxer puncher dynasty. You're going to have Who's bring a lot of pressure. He's doing a lot of going to throw punches with bad and break. You have a guy like People who throws a lot of straight punches. If you go back and look at his play with Canelo, just remember him throwing a lot of, he would almost throw like a 1-2-1. Jab, right hand, jab. And a lot of straight punches, very educated jab. He uses it well. And so, and it's another guy that I don't think's ever been down.
yeah.
So you got two things there, and basically, the person's got to give one of
Well, I really like Beterbiev just because he seems like nothing's going to stop him. Bivol could possibly eke out a decision, but surviving Beterbiev is a whole other matter. And he can be a little crafty with him, but I don't know how far that goes. And you got a guy going against you that's as aggressive as Beterbiev is. I mean, you've got Canelo Alvarez, one of the best fighters in the world, just didn't have enough knockout power or punching power really in general to threaten Bivol. But Beterbiev is a whole different story. He just
very
fights
true.
angry. He almost and he still fights with precision. He can still strike with very good accuracy and like I said, take a shot like with the best of them. So it's going to have to
I
take
think
really crafty.
now he looks like if you go back and you watch Superman 2 that came out around like the early days of '81, they had the three Krypton villains on there, and there was the one villain who actually was played by a professional heavyweight boxer named O'Halloran. Well, George Foreman, early in Foreman's career. First, um, that's who better be looks like. He looks like
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he has that thug look about him. That's bad. All right, well, I guess we're gonna call it a night on that one. Another little bit of news: Conor McGregor has moved into the bare knuckle world with a official partnership for his forged Irish stout. Trying to take the place of Guinness, I guess. Forged Irish stout has made a partnership with the bare knuckle fighting championships and Damon Feldman. David Feldman. Ah, he is the big time boss of BKFC, and him and Connor have been shaking hands on a deal here. And David said, the fastest growing combat sport on the planet teams up with the fastest growing Irish stout on the planet. It's an honor to partner with Connor and the Forged team to make Forged Irish Stout the most recognized and best Irish stout in the world. I'm looking forward to a great partnership with Connor and his team. And in response, Connor said, "Who the fuck is Guinness?" He is staying busy, that's for sure. Still no word on when he's actually going to fight again. But gotta tell you, the longer he stays out of the cage, the more I see him ending his next appearance in defeat. I don't care how much drugs he's allowed to take. Just don't think he's got it anymore. Guy like he's going to be facing too is just so aggressive. He's a little bit shorter, doesn't have as much reach, but he's just got so much aggressive uh, mindset and experience galore against the top of the top. So I just don't think McGregor has it anymore. But we will find out whenever that Michael Chandler fight happens. I know a lot of people are waiting to see McGregor get smeared. But of course, McGregor and his ego has got to be fueling an incredible effort to get back there in top shape and not embarrass himself. But I don't know. If I was in his position, I don't think I could overcome all those things that pull you away from the training that are making him way much more money, like selling his booze. I mean, can you imagine having your own alcohol company, Tony? Do you think you would not drink?
Oh, God.
Party all the time? I don't know if I could do it. I don't think he's doing it either. But he has surprised me before, so I won't sell him out completely. So I just don't see it. Don't see it in Tom's crystal ball winning that next fight. All right. Until next week, I guess that's it for us. Enjoy the fights this weekend. We'll be coming at you next week with some more stuff. Hopefully, a really great card to talk about in UFC and some big gambling wins. Do. Need another 14 hundo score. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Tom will be back next week, I'm sure. Unless the tax man calleth. We'll see. That's all she wrote.
Okay. Sounds good, man. We'll talk to you folks later. Tornado out.
Adios.